Session today is Monday, February the 24th, 2020. The time is now 5 p.m. The work session of the City Council in Trinidad will now come to order. We have a couple items on file. One is public safety, and the second one is economic development update. So, start off with public safety. I guess, Chief, I guess you're first on the board here.
So last time I came, I presented the 5-year year report. This is the actual crime report for the 10 years that I told you that we had, and I gave it to you in a hard copy because it's a little easier to read. We also talked about possible steps and increases for the officers to help maintain our staff. And I got something together and I sent that to Mike last week, and hopefully we can get rolling on that as well. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Any questions from council?
I have one,
Go ahead.
Chief. The unattended deaths were 23 in the city.
Right.
Was that, and there were only 10 that were cleared, was that mostly senior deaths at home?
You know, that could be anywhere from, an unattended is anybody that dies at the home if not a doctor. So it could be anything. It could be anything from, someone with terminal illness.
So somebody was there with them when they passed, it just wasn't
Not necessarily. Unattended means there was not a physician there.
Oh,
Family
okay.
could be there.
Okay, that's what I was
Right.
wondering. Okay. That makes sense then. That's the only question.
And the unattended deaths, you specify some are overdose, so.
It could be overdose, it could be terminal illness, it could be just anything natural.
Sorry, I think we're driving the same nail, but we don't keep statistics on whether an unattended death is.
Yes, we do, I just don't have that in front of me.
Oh, okay.
I could break down that column and show what each call was.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That'd be beneficial. I have another question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Let me grab a book, I gave mine to Mike.
Takes about 2 minutes for that to go down.
In what time?
Takes a couple minutes for it to warm up.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, buddy.
I think if you look at the graphs, that pretty much shows the easiest way to see the crime trend.
Where are you?
And the graphs, it's labeled, where it says graph, where it says graphs. But it kind of gives an overall picture. I got it all the way back to 1999 because that's when I started. Well, actually, I went back even before I started doing these, but.
Chief, I really like the graphs on it because if the public could really see how things have, changed, of course, going back to calls for service, what I'm looking at here from 1999, of course, they were way down, and then they spiked in 2008, and it looks like in 18 they were down and then back up in 19, so, but it looks like in particular instances, there are several that are down.
Which index are you on here?
Well, I was looking at the burglary index.
Oh, the burglary?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I just was paging through them, and that is something that I wish that, there's a lot of concern in the community about the
Right.
violations and stuff that are going on, and I just wish that there was somehow that people that are so very concerned about the crime report that they could see something like this, so they would come to City Hall and
Right.
and look at that.
So I noticed that the newspapers did print the summary that I gave with the 5-year report, which was helpful, and it kind of showed exactly what is out there. I still think a lot of it goes back to the article where they're ranking the cities as safest cities or what have you, and I explained that last time on, you know, how those other cities are reporting, I don't know.
Yeah.
But our report is right out of this, it's right out of the NIBRS, so anything that goes in that NIBRS is automatically generated into our report. So there's no way to fudge the numbers, that's what the numbers are.
You know, one thing, of course, we only have one of the newspapers here today, but maybe that's something that they could do is maybe take each one of these graphs, maybe each week, produce it in their newspaper to show what's happened. That way it'll give people a good idea of what's, calls for service, and then the next week they can do a burglary one, and the following week they can do a different one. And it'll kind of give the people an idea of what's been happening over the past, 10, 20 years since you've been keeping track of this.
Okay.
Bill, I'm not sure if that's something that you would wanna do.
If I did it, I'd have to get a digital copy of that so that we can move it around.
We do have a digital copy.
If you could
Yep.
send me one, I'll
Right.
call
Just-
over there and leave you my email address.
Sure, we do have a digital
Okay.
copy as well.
You might contact Chronicle News to see if they wanna do something like that, that way they can.
Right.
I think that'd be a good idea.
So that first tab, the NIBRS tab, that's what I keep referring back to. So once a report is generated into that NIBRS report, that's where it automatically populates into the CBI report.
Charlie, one question I have, and this, I'm gonna have to do it again in case, I'm sure it's happened in the past. But, I've been keeping track of that, Dylan something in Colorado Springs, where the kid's been missing for like, 3 weeks now. And according to what they were saying is that when a person goes missing, it takes 48 hours before they can actually say that he's a missing person or she's a missing person. But yet, in the same context, it says that the first, 48 hours is the most crucial. So can you explain to me why is it that, the police department has to wait so long before they begin a search? Or
We don't
explain?
wait.
Okay.
We don't wait.
I was just kind of
So
wondering.
especially if it's a child, we don't wait. We're out knocking doors, we don't wait.
Okay. In this particular case, like I said, I was.
We have it happen quite frequently. We have a student sometimes that will get off the bus in a location or stay on the bus there. We immediately react and we start following up.
Good, right, that's good to know.
I'm sorry.
No.
I had another question, if you don't mind. With all due respect to the idea of printing the charts, I think that's probably beneficial. I mean, information is useful. But I do think a lot of this citizens' concern stems from other newspaper articles. I mean, we've had the three liquor stores that have happened recently, Tony's Diner. Anecdotally, I mean, that seems like a lot of events recently. And
Okay.
I think those are the items that drive citizen concerns, along with people's personal incidents that happen, say, in public spaces, parks, river walks, and that. And Chief Glorioso, I know you guys do the very best you can to cover every place you can. It's a gargantuan task. But I think that's people's concerns comes from that, so I'm not sure that printing the charts is gonna help. I mean, what solutions can we have that will address those?
So the robbery report, then I'll refer to the last one we had last week. Were you under the impression that there was an arrest made?
Oh, I did hear that there was.
Okay, but you didn't hear that in a lot of places. You heard
Right.
about the robbery, but you didn't hear that arrest was made as well. Which I think sometimes people want to focus on the negative. Positive outcome is that the individual was caught within 20 minutes, 15 minutes
Yeah,
of the,
that's
of the crime. So I mean, yes, they're happening, but yes, we're being as proactive as we can to solving them. And I'm hoping with the evidence found at that one, we could possibly tie in a couple more. So, there's positive stuff to look at as well. Yeah, I'm concerned. I got asked at the community neighborhood watch meeting that we had, to me, one robbery is too many. But, it's how we react and how we're doing with the robberies is the best deterrent. I had a discussion with the mayor just prior to the meeting is the last piece of that is the kind of convictions we get on. We gotta get good deterrence so people don't do that. We're gonna have a business watch meeting this coming Thursday. I'd really like to see all those businesses attend, and let's get them involved, just like we got the community service people involved, the neighborhoods involved, and get some good information and, you know, help us. The reason we were very successful last week is because we had good witnesses that got information out quickly to the officers. That's what we need. You know, it takes a community to make a safe community, not just the police department.
I would agree with you. You and your department need to be commended for the quick response, locking down that area and finding the guy, and so much the better if it can be tied to another. I have another question. Oh, go ahead, Mr.
No,
Russo.
well, something to tag on to your point, but continue. Good.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, it was gonna be moving on, so if you have something.
Okay, well, recently there was an article, I was looking for it, but I can't find it in a timely fashion. The Chronicle News is published where they had made requests for information about this, about that, about this, and they listed several different incidents. It's important, if not essential sometimes, that police play their cards close to their vest. Because if we're gonna develop an investigation, you don't tell everybody what you know. You understand what I'm trying to say? Police work is not a Donald Trump PR thing. It's where they do things to the best of their ability with the information they have, and they build on that case to solve other cases, as the chief pointed out. So to be critical of not, the detail of every surgery is not published in the hospital, nor should the details of every the important details of every crime be made public awareness, public notice. Because eventually, somebody's gonna get caught. Eventually, that will go to trial. And then we talk about a contaminated jury pool because of pretrial publicity and all the information that was put out there that shouldn't have been out there. That's my point, based on my experience.
Good observation. What's the other question?
I did have one other question. With the total calls of 17,646, if you, and I'm not insinuating, is that every call that comes in? I mean, to the station?
That's just any call that generates a number.
I was curious as to how, because if you do that hourly, and I'm sure that's not entirely fair to amortize that number over the entire year down to an hour, but it works out to a little bit over 2 calls an hour. I'm sure you guys are busier than that.
Well, so let's look at that full picture. One call could take 3 minutes, another call could take hours or days. So it just depends what that call is. So it could be anywhere from a simple extra patrol that they're requesting to a major crime. So you cannot break it down by what those things are. And let me give you another fact. We are 27 people in my department right now. Right now we're operating at a huge deficit.
Mm-hmm.
We're down to 9 people that are covering your streets right now. Whether it's because they're in the academy, whether it's because of injury, whether it's what have you. So we're stretched. We're stretched at this point. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, but we're doing all we can to cover those calls.
Right. And I do know you have more officers coming online, and that's going to be a huge positive. How, say, public spaces, parks, the trail, that sort of thing. How is that determined to be patrolled? I mean, once you're fully staffed, is there a expected patrols per hour, day, something? So
patrols we use foot patrol, we use the bike patrol, and we use the vehicle as well. That's how we do the patrol. When I have more staff, I could dedicate more time to actually patrolling. A lot of what we're doing right now is reactive because of the staff that we have and the calls for service that we're getting. They're not slowing down. So yes, I hope to get to where we're full staffed. The whole time I've been here, we've never been full staffed. Part of the way we do that is we pay our officers that we have here better, and we give the people that are here, give them incentives to stay here once they're here. And like I said at the start of this, I did put together something that I've only shared with Mike so far, based on our base salary now, but I'd like to see them get to that 5th step. I mean, I think we're at the 3rd step right now. Is that where we're at? Mm-hmm. We need to be at that 5th step. So that way, we can pay the officers what we need to do and retain the ones that have the experience. We invest a lot of money in an officer, and to get them all trained up, give them all that experience, and then to see them walk away, we're spinning in circles.
I was wondering, the neighborhood watches, how many neighborhood watches do you have going right now?
Currently, we have 3 or 4? About 4.
About 4?
Yeah, and I know that based out of our last meeting that we had, there's a few that we're trying to get up and going. So I mean, I'd love to have 100, for a city this size.
So looking at that, you said 100, do you think that's pretty much
I-
the neighborhood watches that we would need? I'm not going,
So
we'll
if
never
we-
get to that number, but.
Yeah. So I say let's double it, let's double that, let's just keep going forward. We need the citizens to help us. They know their neighborhood. If they see something suspicious, they need to call it in. As I mentioned at our last meeting, a lot of people are hesitant to call in because they feel they don't want to bother, or they don't think it's important enough. If it's important enough to catch your eye, it's important enough for us that we need to go check.
Sure.
And it's been proven that if we respond to calls, it brings the crime rate down because the officers are in the neighborhoods.
How about the business watches? Are you beginning to hear any business watches that want to get started?
So we're this Thursday, we're gonna have a meeting, and I hope we have as good a turnout as we had for the neighborhood watch. And we can get a lot of them up and going as well.
Question? One thing that I think would be interesting for people to know in looking at all these numbers is if there's any sense you can give us of what proportion of crimes that you deal with are committed by people who are local or by people who are passing through?
Yeah, I know we haven't tracked that in the past. It could probably be done to know. I get to stand here just as a person that's lived here my whole life. I see a lot more new faces in town than I ever have at this point. So but I can't give you a number as to which is which at this point.
Do you have a sense at all about it, just generally?
Well, I know we have a lot of repeat offenders. I know, and a lot of them are from home. They're from here. So when you know people on a first name basis, you have a lot of contact with them. So, but I don't have an accurate number for you. I would just be guessing.
Okay. Has the department this last year put together any kind of major investigation or enforcement against drug dealing in the community? Is there anything?
So we're always doing something as far as whether it's acting on tips, whether it's undercover surveillance. It's an active, it's a constant fight. I mentioned the one house that we had where we had 3 times where we had the same house. So anytime we get a tip, we follow up the tip. We have our tips line that people can call in anonymously. It's an ongoing battle.
Does it ever succeed in getting the drug house gone, or so that it's no longer happening there?
Well, and I'll refer to the one that had the 3 calls. We thought, well, we got it once. Shortly up, it was up and going again. We got it again. So all we could do is make the arrest and then hope that they get a conviction out of them.
Do you know the conviction rate on any of these stats at all either?
There's some at the front that shows you they show cleared. They don't show conviction. I'm sorry.
Okay. And what does cleared mean?
Means it was by an arrest.
Okay. But you don't keep track of what happens after that point?
I don't have that as in front of me.
Okay.
And we can probably get that information
Through the district attorney's office.
I think that would be something that maybe we should be asking the DA for conviction rates.
And then the other day when we were at the Partners for a Drug-Free Community, one of the ideas that we talked about in the law enforcement group was clearing out the underbrush and any garbage or debris that's under the bridges and along the pathway. Would that be helpful?
So I would really like to see our river walk look someday like something in Pueblo. I really would. I don't know if we can ever get to that point, but we definitely need to get it more attractive. We need to get where people are not afraid to walk down there. And the way we do that is we clear it out. We don't make it a safe haven. Right now it's a safe haven for those people to go in there and hide. You can hide in millions of places down there and camouflage yourself in pretty well. If we can open that up, get rid of all the undergrowth and the obnoxious trees and weeds and stuff that don't need to be down there, and just keep the vegetation that we want, open it up, put lighting and cameras, then that would make it a desirable place again.
That's why I mentioned at our last work session that, and I talked to, we talked about maybe getting a piece of on the other part, skid steer that would be able to clear out the, you know, the bottom portion and the sides that are harder to get to, that then that could be manually done. And that would be able to, we'd be able to do that a lot quicker and continue to do that on a yearly basis rather than wait, do it a year and then 2 years that thing is going over again. So that is something that I think that.
Something tangible that would be helpful.
Yeah, even if we start here in Nevada and go down to Linden, just do, you know, a small portion of it at a time and then work our way further. I mean, east is one problem, but you guys are developing west, keep that all open and make it desirable.
You need equipment to take care of that big
Right.
area. Good, Frank.
Oh, Johnny, not really a question, well, kind of a question, I comment, is there, I know we talked about it the last time I talked to you about the issue with the people over here by the soup kitchen, the homeless people and stuff. Is there any way we could, I'm not telling Jason, but we have the guy that was the offender there that one time we called, and, he had took 4 of your office to get him in there and take him out. Then the next day he was out swinging the club out there. Can we do something about not letting these guys out or finding someone? I know you kind of said that, but I don't understand how he could have got out the next day and out there swinging the club, you know, and it's kind of a bad situation over there. I mean, I'm not criticizing, I just was, you know, there's some way we can kind of get some of these people off the street for a while or something and find out what we could do. I'm not saying
Right.
abuse them or, you know, something, but I'd like to see something done in that aspect so that we can kind of keep it a little bit safer and keep the same people from being out there.
Dealing with the mentally ill, if this individual was, you know, arguably mentally ill, is extremely difficult. All the officers can do is try to make it safe for the public and then for themselves, or in a reverse order, make it safe. And if the person is arrestable, that's fine. But then the sheriff's office has a really kind of heightened concern that they don't want to just warehouse people who are mentally ill. I probably gave you that same answer last time, Council.
But
I'm sorry.
But you're not taking them out of the public, you're making it unsafe for the public.
I
You know.
I understand you can't just keep them incarcerated.
Well, that's true, but there's some issue how we can do this down the road. I mean, I'm just kinda asking more to find out,
I
'cause
think that would be more toward state legislation.
Right, in funding for the mentally ill. I know that's an easy kind of answer for me to give that isn't a solution.
Well, the biggest thing is that it came out in the newspaper the other day about that, information about that person that was on meth and how they become superhumans. You know,
Right.
the guy was tased, shot 3 times, and he was still going. You know, it's crazy what these guys can do.
Right.
So when we're talking about people that have mental issues, is there any place for them in Colorado? Can you send them, like, is there a state hospital or?
But they've gotta meet the criteria. It's just somebody that's swinging a thing out, behind the library, they have to meet the criteria to get that hospital space. And at the time, the bed space,
They're very limited.
it's limited as well.
You know, when they changed that ruling, how long ago back, about 20 years ago, they changed that
Yeah,
ruling.
right.
There's more people out on the streets with mental
That's right.
conditions than there were before, so.
You know, and Aaron, we talked about that at our meeting as well, that we had with our drug-free coalition about dealing with the mentally ill and getting the officers more training on how to deal with them, which I think is something that we need to do.
Alan, this is on page 2 of the opening section here. It says, cut in error, no report. What is it? What do you mean by that?
So that could just be a call for service that comes in and it's unfounded, or someone calls in and or an officer sees something. It could just anything that's cut in error, that is.
Okay, I was just gonna put that. Any other questions?
I did, Chief Glorioso, the overdose was counted at 15. Is that something that you would respond to specifically, and then the ambulance responds to others, or is it always a mutual?
We're all responsible.
Okay.
And normally, you know, that could be, Trinidad, ambulance, it could be the fire department, it could be us, we're all responding.
Okay, and then do we, even if you don't have it tonight, do you have,
Narcan,
yeah, a result of what that
we
was?
do have Narcan, yeah.
I mean, do you know how many were saved versus not? Or?
I don't have that with me, but.
Then, I have one other question. If, with the amount of drugs that you've, taken off the streets, that's in here, do you know how that compares to other towns of our size? Because it, kind of what I'm thinking is, Trinidad is maybe subject to a higher number of or higher influence of drugs due to the fact that we're on I-25, a major thoroughfare, presumably, to Denver. Is there any way that we could substantiate that as a city, and if so, is the state at all willing to help? I mean, because in effect we're on a thoroughfare, a supply chain, if you will, to Denver. I mean, that's different than a town that wouldn't be. Can the state help in any regard?
So we used to work with the DEA. There used to be task force that would come into the city with their money and their officers and help us with drug activity. I talked to the mayor about this before he went to his meeting in Denver, and those programs don't exist anymore. If we could get that up and going as well, that would be a very helpful tool for us, because it's not only the officers that they bring in, but it's their money and their criminal informants or undercover cops that help. And we did a lot of that early on when I first became chief, but those programs no longer exist. We do work with the DEA, but they're bigger quantity stuff that we're stopping on the interstate.
So that bigger quantity stuff, that's not reported in this report?
It's their dress. We're just assisting.
Generally speaking, those bigger quantities are not destined for Trinidad.
No.
From my experience in interdicting narcotics and money and the likes, and the industry, they're just passing through Trinidad. They're stopping here maybe for gas and a hamburger and McDonald's. They're not wasting a lot of time here. Their destination is in Denver or Chicago or places beyond here. They're not coming here with 10 kilos of cocaine to do work here. It just doesn't work that way.
Question. There are a lot of code violation, 295 ordinance violations. What do those typically involve?
Could be anything, junk vehicles, could be weeds, it could be just anything out of the municipal code.
And what does your code enforcement officer do?
We have the animal control officer that responds to that, and we have Tony Howe. He's in charge of that. And we also do some of the buildings with the building code.
Okay, and they write tickets or?
Write tickets, yeah.
Okay.
Write tickets, or even if you go down and cut the weeds and put liens on the property, and just if it's a junked, you have the city help us clean them. We're tearing down properties. It's just.
If you'll notice periodically, Mike will put out information on, the code enforcement issues that Tony Howe is doing. So it says a number of people that they've got junk vehicles or trash or weeds or whatever. So watch when that comes out, and we'll kind of give you an idea as to what's all.
We have had people call to ask how much the taxes are on their property, and they're surprised to learn that it's like $6,000. I said, what? Well, the taxes are like maybe $400 or $500, but the lien that the city has placed on it for the cost of doing what you should have done is applied to that, so that you have to redeem that. At some point, we're trying to, through all venues and vehicles available to us, hold persons responsible accountable. And this seems to be getting people's attention. If you can get in their pocketbook, you get their attention. A lot of these properties are non-present owners, and it's a big tax thing for them wherever they live. And they could really care less about it till they realize that their $200 tax bill is now $7,000.
I think, Mike, you can probably explain, because I'm not sure if the new council people know the fees that we are applying right now to some of these first, second, third time offenders on code ordinance.
Right, we just went through that and raised that upwards of, I don't have that in front of me, but it's like $300 per occurrence, and it goes on. Of course, we give them the due process. We warn them, your weeds are over 6 inches, you've got so long to cut them. And that takes the officer's time, Tony's time to go back and check and do all the administrative stuff, so we up those fees considerably, on that type of process, so.
But that's something we did a while back.
Any other questions for Chief Marcel?
I just need a clarification, Chief. When you said ordinance violations, is that including like the animal ordinance?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a duplicate number?
No, ordinance is anything outside of animal.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be what, how, the other, we have a animal control officer that does, yeah.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so that's not,
Right.
yeah, okay.
I'm sorry if I said that, that was my
No,
mistake.
I might have misheard.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Appreciate the information.
Right.
One last question, I just thought of this. Do you know if the county puts out anything like this too?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Yes, Chief. Item number 2, economic development update. Molly?
How's it going?
Good.
Good. Sorry, gave you all some of those packets. This one. There you go. Don't get quite as fancy around out of folders.
I know.
All right, I am Wally Wallace, as you all know. I was just here last week, and so and I do have Jeff Peterson here with me to help out a little bit. I'd actually like to, just point out that Jeff has been a huge help since I came here to the city. I started on September 2nd, and our city manager resigned on September 3rd. So it was a little hectic to get things rolling and to figure out where everything was, but both Jeff and Mike have been enormous helps at getting all that going, and so I just wanted to let them know how much I appreciate that support that they've given. I put together just a short little summary, and then I gave you all a bunch of information on. A lot of this stuff is information that kind of was collected before I started, but there was nobody here to kind of go with it and run with it, and including one of these reports we didn't even have a copy of because nobody was here to receive it from the consultants who did it for us. And so things are going well. We're very optimistic about the future here in Trinidad, mainly with the development of Fisher's Peak. I'll have some information later on in this report that will show how much of an economic driver that's supposed to be. But in this report, we just kind of touch on the 4 primary economic drivers that we see being primarily beneficial for Trinidad. And one of them is just our economic development department and what we're trying to put together as far as offering economic gardening and just other support structures for the towns that live here. What we can be looking at as incentives to bring more business down here, and different partnerships we're trying to build up. So I'll just kind of go through a little bit of what is already in the works. So first of all, obviously we're working on the Space to Create project, and a big goal of us for that is for that to be an economic development hub. That may be its permanent home, or we may move to another location at some point, but we do want to get that space activated right away. As a piece of that, the Creative District will have a new home in that facility, so we'll be working with them to work on marketing, strategic plans, retail recruitment of creative industries, stuff like that. We would like to get the SBDC to be either housed in there, or we're working with the college to possibly house them up there. From our meeting with DOLA a couple weeks ago, it sounds, right now we have a SBDC representative, but he's only down here about 2 days a month. So there's a strong desire for us to get a permanent SBDC office so that we can offer the type of support that they have available. And honestly, just to create more economic developers in our area to assist. And from our conversations with DOLA, it sounds like we could do that for $10,000 to $20,000 a year. Actually get an office down here.
You might explain to council and whoever's in the audience to understand that SBDC, that would be something that college would be involved with.
Yes, totally. To offer training. The main thing I'd like to emphasize about that is it wouldn't just be the college. This would definitely be beneficial for everyone in the community. Just to have that type of support. They are a great entity for finding grants and so on. But historically, they have actually mainly been located on college campuses through financial support through entities. I believe we actually even used to have one here at one point in time. Yeah, and so now the head office for our region is La Junta, and there's, like I said, they're sending down a representative every once in a while, but it would be, yeah, I believe much to our benefit to get them. There is one page in there that kind of just explains some of the services they offer.
Do you know how big of an area that office covers? Is it?
A huge area, pretty much everything east of here.
6 counties.
Yeah, 6 counties. So, yeah, so we would like to, that's one of the main things that we would like to do to help increase our ability to assist our community with resources and educational opportunities. We have some that we can offer through our department and through partnerships with the Chamber of Commerce and through TSJC, but that would really open up the door to have some support to offer that more completely. The other people that we are working with are, obviously, as I said, we're working very closely with the Creative District. We'll have a new office for them and kind of be offering them more power to offer more services to our community. The Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Colorado Inc., Startup Colorado. One of the big projects, yeah, there's a little bit jumped down, but one thing that Jeff and I are working on is creating a revolving loan fund with Colorado Lending Source. Basically, they have a model where we can take a certain sum of money and put it into this revolving loan fund where we can basically turn $50,000 into $500,000 that we can loan to different entities at a very low interest rate if we work with a bank, or if we were to self-fund it, it would be no interest rate, and we can offer that to these business owners at a very low rate for them. So we've been having that discussion with Colorado Lending Source. They're very interested in working with us on it, and they've introduced similar programs in Fort Collins, Colorado, where basically the city of Fort Collins put in $100,000, and with that they were able to create a revolving loan fund of $1 million. So that's just something that we're researching, trying to put together, and eventually we'll be coming to you to see if that is something that we might be able to use marijuana tax revenues to fund, so we can offer more support to our businesses in the community. We have been working really closely with OEdit and DOLA on several projects, and through that it's given me a great opportunity to connect with all of them to see what other future projects we can work on. Right now the primary one to my mind is Space to Create, but from our meeting with them it sounds like they're going to have a lot more opportunities in the near future for housing. That in the past, they've only really been able to offer CHAFA funds to larger scale projects, and now they're changing those rules where they can even offer those type of funds for single family houses. And so there might be a lot of opportunity for us to work with them to create more housing down here in Trinidad, and hopefully to recruit more contractors to locate in our area where it's will be a little bit easier for them to compete with markets like Denver and Colorado Springs and so on.
You know, DOLA does have an actual housing arm from the regular arm wherever they from.
Yeah.
They actually do have a housing.
Yeah. So, and just from what they told us a few weeks ago, it sounded like they were going to be increasing that quite a bit. And then Colorado Creative Industries, they've already been granting us funds for the Space to Create project. The USDA, we just had a meeting with them last week trying to figure out where we can get grant funds from them. We are actually primarily looking at Space to Create as well. But it sounds like they actually we would have the most success with infrastructure projects through them. That's where it's easier to get funds, and the grant program is much bigger there. But we are looking at all options for different sources to fund those major economic development projects. And then GOCO and EPA are two other groups that we've been working with.
I was going to mention to you, I talked to you last week, and that book I was telling you, I just finished reading it, and there are some national resources. I'm not sure if they would come into Colorado, but they do talk about smaller communities as well, and what I'll do is I'll get you that book so you can read it, because there, like I said, there's some that's kind of dull to read, but there are some really good points that they do have, so I'll get that for you so that you can read it.
Yeah, that'd be great. And yeah, and like I said, we have been working with some national organizations like EPA and the USDA, but they've been a little discouraging in getting a lot of that national money just because Colorado is considered a more wealthy state.
These were a little bit different. They weren't like the USDA and some of the, these were some offshoots that I can't remember what the names were, but they were different.
Cool.
But,
I would love to learn more about them. So the Space to Create project is coming along. You all got the report on that just last week. The housing portion of that is supposed to be open by June of this year. 41 affordable housing units, which will really up our inventory, which to me is going to be one of our most important economic development goals, is to increase our housing inventory here.
And Wally,
Yeah.
go ahead. Wally, of those, the housing inventory that's adding, what percentage of those are going to house existing people here in the Trinidad area, or is that importing new people to the Trinidad area?
Their top priority is to house people here in Trinidad. That is basically Space to Create, Art Space, the company that does Space to Create. Traditionally, they have built these type of projects in urban communities, not rural communities. And with urban communities, there's a real, and in rural communities, there's a really high concern of gentrification, driving people out of those communities who have historically been there. And so it's a big goal of Art Space to not do that whenever possible, to offer housing opportunities to people to live in those communities before going to other places. I think in our community we need a little bit of both. Like, I think we need people that we can house here, but I also think there is a need to bring new people to our community that can offer services and continue to grow our economy. So first they will be targeting here locally. From there they'll be expanding to Denver, Colorado Springs, other communities not too far away. And then from there they'll just be trying to fill those units however they can. But yeah, that is a good question, and their first priority is to try and house people here within.
when we had that meeting, at the bank here a month and a half ago, it was interesting. There were 50 people at least, and the majority of those people were from out of town.
Yeah.
And in talking to Maryland and in talking to the Chamber of Commerce, they were getting calls from people outside of the city that are interested in the project for housing. And so there could very well be people that are moving in to their units. So it's going to be open.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that's really important that we do have housing options for people that are moving here from outside of our community. And I do know there's people that are interested. I've had people come down to tour the space that are interested in moving down here from Denver and other places. I just wanted to give that caveat that Art Space's model, and in the past and kind of the way that they have been looking at this so far, is to try and offer housing for people here locally first. And so that will be the first marketing area that they do, and then they will expand from there. That project is coming along. We are still working on raising funds and everything for the commercial development area underneath the Space to Create Commons. We're very optimistic about that. It's going well. So we're just really happy that we'll have some more housing very soon. One thing that I have in this packet for you all is the development of establishing marketing and economic development incentives. There's a number that actually our last economic development director started putting together, and he even at one point started marketing them, but we haven't actually passed them through City Council. So I have those in here for you all to start reviewing and start thinking about, and then with the near future of us hopefully passing some of these, mainly tax incentives to recruit larger businesses to come here. In addition to that, we do offer our rental assistance program. That one I am currently doing a lot of reworking with. I do think it has helped some businesses here in town, but to be completely honest, last year it went way over budget. The budget for it was $25,000, and They spent over $50,000 on rental assistance. And through contracts from last year, they've already spent, or we've already agreed to spend almost $20,000 of this year's budget. So it really only left me with $5,000 if I were to stay in budget to help people. So we're trying to work with that to make sure that we don't go over our budget so much, and also the possibility of considering increasing that budget, or I'll be bringing it before you soon, and if you all want to get rid of it, then that's what we'll do. But I would like us to have incentives to help our local businesses that are here already, so I discourage that.
Now, one of the things that, there was, about a year ago, there was a large meeting that was held again at the bank building. OEDA was there, and CCI and some other people were there, and I was talking to, there was a lady that, she was actually mentioning that you've got to be very careful with incentives, especially with people that come from out of town. Because they will come in for the incentives, stay for a while, and then leave. And actually, she said they actually discourage incentives for that particular reason. So
Yeah.
anyway, so just for information, this is
Yeah.
what they told us.
No, I definitely think it's something to consider, but but if that is the case, yeah, we need to start getting creative about other ideas that we can come up to support these businesses. Because
I think the incentives for current businesses,
Mhm.
I think is well worth the money.
Okay.
For people who want to expand their business, or people that are struggling and maybe need a little help.
Mhm. And I think that would be something to look at with this current program, because it's the exact opposite of that. It is to help new businesses that have been around for less than 2 years, where, yeah, I do agree that it would be good to help the people that have been made a commitment to our community and have shown that they're here to stay, or to hopefully stay.
Wally, is that what you mean by, the program exists but needs restructuring, or is there any other way you think it should be restructured?
Well, the truth is, it looks like it has been restructured twice in the past. And when it was first introduced, it was like a $5,000 cap. This is the most amount of money that you can get out of this program. But then somebody rewrote it 2 years ago, and they took away that cap. And we had the problem last year. We gave one entity $18,000, which is way more than we should be offering to any single entity in incentives. So,
Do you think we need better, oversight on business plans or anything like that, and
yeah.
realistic?
Definitely. And that was a piece of when they did rewrite it, was they made one of the requirements to be able to get the rental assistance was it had to be reviewed by the SBDC. So you had to create a business plan and actually work with them for them to say that it's a viable business plan, and then at that point they could get funding. And so we have introduced some things, but basically that was passed by Tara Marshall, and then she left right after that, so there was nobody really overseeing it. And so, yeah. I will be back with you all pretty soon to go over that and to try and work through the changes that I have made to try and put that $5,000 cap back on. But then it is time for us to have a discussion of, do we want it to be to try and bring new businesses here, or do we want it to support the existing businesses that are going through difficult times? So,
Mr. Wallace?
yes.
Can you give us a report like on the rental incentive program, rental assistance incentive program, about how many businesses actually took advantage of that program and how many are still in business? Do you have that data?
I do have that data on my computer. I did not print it out in this report. I would say, from looking at the first year of doing business rental assistance, I think 10 people signed up for it. And I would say that 7 of those businesses are no longer around. So that was a pretty low success rate.
Right.
In this past year, we had a little bit more than that. I would say that we had about 12 businesses that were a part of it. And only 2 or 3 of those did end up closing, but it was a year ago, and some of them are still receiving it, so we'll see kind of what happens when that funding does go away.
When did that program start?
2017.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's but that's the main incentive that we do have for our local businesses. We do have some educational resources. We have been working with CU, Boulder Lead School of Business, to do some programs. We've been working with Raton Economic Development to hopefully bring some entrepreneurs up there. But I would like us to, be looking into other incentives that we can be offering both to our businesses, and also just innovative, creative ideas of what we can do to bring more people into our economy, to contribute to it. Examples of things I've seen in the past that I have never seen on a small city government scale, but incentives to bring remote workers to your community, that bring income from other places and to add to your tax revenue here, and things like that that I would like to continue looking into and considering. So the current grant programs that we do have, and they're actually mainly through partnerships with other organizations, are urban renewal TIF financing that entities can apply for improving their structures or building new structures. We do have enterprise zones and opportunity zones here. The thing about those programs is they're really targeted at large money investments, especially opportunity zones. The main way that you can benefit from them is if you're investing millions of dollars into a community, and they give you a place to put your revenue so you don't have to pay as much in taxes. And that full return rate is 10 years, and the 10 years is actually already counting down. So it'd be great to recruit some of those businesses, but those will be the hardest ones for us to attract. And I can touch on that a little bit later.
Why don't you explain the areas, because there's not all of the city of Trinidad is in the opportunity zone. Why
Yes.
don't you explain what areas those are? I think that
Yeah.
people would want to know.
So the enterprise zone is the entire city.
Right.
And those are state tax incentives. Opportunity zones are federal tax incentives. They encompass a lot of the city, but this is one part of town where they are not. Basically, from what I have been told, there's this triangular area from Commercial and Main this way to the interstate, that whole area is not in an opportunity zone. And the reason that I was told that is actually because of the marijuana dispensaries, that they drove up the tax revenue so much in this section of town that it was no longer considered a low income area. And so they staked this off as a place that was not available for those incentive funds. But that side of that side of Commercial Street is, most of the college is, and almost everything east of here in the county is an opportunity zone. In addition to those, we have historic preservation tax credits, facade redevelopment grants. We have that through urban renewal, but we are also creating a facade program through our Main Street program, with one more focused on structural needs and one more focused on cosmetic needs. We have the ADA Access Grant, and through the Tourism Board, we have the Marketing Match Grant. So those are all ways that people within our community can come to the city, and we can support them with different projects that they're working on. So those are what we've been working on in just trying to develop our area as a more friendly, economic, viable community for them to invest in. But the other thing that we've really been touching on are what I consider to be the three biggest assets that our community does have, which are our historic buildings, is to me the first one. That's what makes our community so unique and different than anywhere else. Our arts community and the creatives that live here, and our need to continue supporting that and growing in that way. And then the biggest one is outdoor recreation, and the potential that we have as we open up more public lands and get more people to come here to spend money.
Wally, I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any inquiries from any businesses associated with outdoor recreation since the announcement for the state park has been released?
I have mainly talked to some bike companies,
Okay.
and to be honest, they would like, the ones that I have spoken to would like to see more commitment from the city to develop trails. And that
Not in the park.
Well, yeah, they see the ones in the park too, but they just aren't, they would like to see more funding from the city going towards that type of development, because we just haven't done it in the past, so they're not fully encouraged yet that the city is fully invested in doing that. And then with that is the importance of connecting our trail systems to the park and to Trinidad Lake Park. Because right now, really our main trail in the area is the Wormhole Loop. And it's an awesome trail, and it's awesome that we've been developing it, but for bicyclists, it's not the best trail. And so when people do come here to do mountain biking, we don't really have trail infrastructure for them. Where we do have gravel roads for gravel grinders and stuff like that, but the main people that are spending tourism dollars on that type of industry are for mountain biking and trail systems. So the importance of us developing that at the state park is going to be essential, and then really for us as a community and fully benefiting from the people that are coming there, we need to connect those trails to our town.
I had a quick question because it relates to what you guys are talking about. Wally, you mentioned the key driver for bicyclists is mountain biking, probably, as at least relating to economics. Do you have any research that shows, say, like what a city could produce, say, Fruta? I mean, do you have any real world examples?
I do not have like data examples right now, and I can talk to you about Fruta because those are where the bike shops that I have been speaking with are actually located out of. And some of that information is in here. This is the economic outlook for the entire state that they produce every year, and you can get a free copy of this if any of you are interested. Yeah, I'll pass this to you later.
I would just say, for full disclosure, I do mountain bike, and I mean, geographically speaking, we're sitting on a potential gold mine.
Exactly, yeah.
For mountain biking, but what he says about the Wormhole Trail, it's definitely true. I mean, people put in a tremendous amount of effort, but it's not conducive to.
Oh, and it's great for hiking. Like, it's an excellent hiking trail, but it needs a little bit more flow for mountain biking.
A while back, we had a meeting actually up at the park, and there were several people there. There was Tony Bloom was there and some other people. And we need to actually have 2 access points to get to the park. One is more for mountain biking, which we're thinking of probably on the east side of town to get to the mountain, for those enthusiasts that want to have a rougher ride to get there. But then we also need something that's a little bit easier ride for them to be able to access the park. So those are the two things that we do need to develop, and I'm sure that's going to come out of this this plan that the state's working on, so as to how to access and the economic development and the economics, that what it'll do for our community as well. So it's going to be a pretty comprehensive plan.
Totally, and I was actually just on the phone with them today for the rapid fire assessment that they've been doing. I've been having bi-weekly talks to them, but I will say largely they are looking to us to build those connections. Like, they're developing in the park, but not only with the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, with connecting Fisher's Peak and Trinidad Lake, but even the huge Highway of Legends infrastructure project. They're trying to create bicycle, both lanes and trails that go off of that connect La Vida to Trinidad and to New Mexico to finish the Front Range Trail. But really, they're just going to the lake, and then they're expecting us to figure out what our connection is going to be from town to the lake, and that's what's going to kind of complete it all.
And we've been working on that for some time, with the Parks or the Recreational Commission for a few years now, and maybe now we'll have a little more incentive to get that done.
Yeah, absolutely, and I have been working a little bit on that. Like, I have all the plans that have been done in the past. We've done very thorough surveys of all of the terrain between here and the lake. But basically what's held us back there is there are private landowners who own certain parcels in between. Some of them have even sold parts of those land to us over the past few years. We bought one big parcel in 2014, one in 2017, but then we kind of hit a pause because there weren't clear clear deeds for all of the land. Because they're owned by families that sometimes 20 of them all own one area. So they have actually been working with an attorney to try and get more clear land titles so that we can possibly purchase more if that's an investment the city's interested in. But the main route that I've actually been trying to look down is that there is an abandoned railroad bed. That was the old Sopris cable car that connected the town of Sopris to Trinidad, just for public transportation. But that was torn out in the 1920s, and nobody knows who owns that right of way.
It wasn't on that map that I was telling you about. I looked at it real close, I didn't see it on that map.
Yeah, so Mike and I have been bugging the Trinidad and Abstract Company every twice a week or so for them to help us figure out who owns that railroad right of way, because that would take us straight from the land that we already own, right next to the Boulevard addition, to the Conservation Corps, who owns the lake. And I've already met with the Conservation Corps, and they said if you can get a trail to our property, you can build a trail through our property. And so, yeah, that's just a huge thing. If we can figure out that railroad right. That's in here a little bit. We basically have 4 different options for getting to the lake. One of them is to purchase those land parcels, and that would be the most ideal because then we'd have access right up to the lake. We'd have all the land all around it. We could expand our city. The other one is acquiring this railroad right away, which would be also great because it's the perfect grade for biking, and it would be a clear connection from land we already own to land that we can build on. The other one is to connect our existing trails to right next to County Road 20.8 and just build a trail that goes along County Road 20.8. Or the last option is to just dump bikes onto County Road 20.8 and turn that into a bicycle route. That would be the cheapest one, but less safe and less adventure and fun for people that are looking for biking trails. So, but I do think finding that connection to the lake and up to Fisher's Peak is going to need to be a really high priority for us if we are developing our town as an outdoor recreation town.
Good.
With regard to, I'm trying to remember, the last one, County Road 20.8, you're suggesting it would be shared with vehicular traffic.
Yeah.
Could we not partner maybe, or work on partnering with the county to vacate that as a county road and turn it into a trail? Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Okay? Another one, hold on, yeah, I'm gonna lose all this if you don't let me
Yeah,
talk.
please.
Okay. Another one, you talked about the railroad right of way.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about land that exists, the property owners are responsible for it and they pay taxes on it, yes? And my point being that the assessor can tell you who owns that property. But if you're interested in a right of way, that's a whole different story, and I don't have the thought there.
Yeah.
And then you talked about contiguous parcels of land. I'm not real sure where the city limits are. But perhaps we could annex to the west. And it's a stretch, but eminent domain to take over certain properties for that purpose.
Yeah.
So as you were listing those things, I was thinking, what can you do to make that happen?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, expand the city, use eminent domain. Second one, find out who owns that land, and but if there's a distinction between, as I say, the right of way and the property, the land, but who owns the dirt? Okay,
Yeah.
as to who cares, who owns the right to use it, is different.
Well, and from talking with Mike and others, you can't just pay the taxes on a railroad right of way and acquire that from paying the taxes.
There's a whole process for doing it.
Yeah, so whoever owned that land in the 1920s probably, actually they probably traded it to another company in mergers, and that's why nobody knows who owns it
But
anymore.
my point is, somebody still owns that land.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
somebody is paying taxes on it, or should be.
I think
And
it's
I'm just still.
railroad right of way.
Okay, that's my point. If it's unique and unto itself, owned by somebody other than the property owner, then that becomes more of a problem.
Mhm.
As I was listening to your presentation, which you did quite well, thank you, you listed about all the assets that Trinidad has. And I was thinking, what are the detractors that we have? Where are the problem areas? And I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, I tend to be a visual learner, and if I had 2 columns, this is what we have to offer. This is what's precluding success with those kinds of things. Mike mentioned the other night in the discussion, and I have several times mentioned, Trinidad used to have 9 car dealerships, had 4 pharmacies downtown, had 4 or 5 men's clothing stores, had 3 shoe stores. It had 2 sporting goods stores. It had a lot of stuff, which it now doesn't have. Maybe what you need to do is take an inventory of what does Trinidad have to offer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do we have any clothing stores per se? I could think of maybe one out at the north end. Other than that, you got Walmart.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
you're exactly right.
No, okay, and then you think about, well, how many beauty shops do they have? How many barber shops do they have?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've outlived all my barbers. So, you understand what I'm trying to
Kudos
say?
to you.
Yeah, I know. But the point being is, you used to have options, now we don't.
Yeah.
And maybe if we made an inventory of all the things that we do, if you wanted to buy an ice cream cone,
Mm-hmm.
I know one place downtown on Commercial Street. But I remember there was that one, there was Dairy Queen, you had A&W, there were options to go get an ice cream cone in the middle of the summer,
Yeah.
which you don't have, so we can make a list. And my point being, for me being a visual learner, if we had a list of what we used to have, what we don't have, what do we need and what do we want, and what are we willing to pay for to get,
Mm-hmm.
to develop and improve the quality of life for those who choose to be here. Okay, and I've been looking for it, I can't find it, but I think in the recent past, the Pueblo chieftain had a couple who were making tents for kind of like mobile tiny houses kind of things on floor structures for people that don't have a residence, homeless people. Okay, and I think one of the optics, the problems for the police department is as people drive through town, particularly people who have lived here a long time, where the hell are all these people coming from, and they're ruining my town? Okay, because they're everywhere, okay? Right in front of the library in the morning.
Yeah.
And then people are just trying to survive. I recognize that, and I appreciate that. And there, but for a few bad decisions, I'm not among them.
Yeah.
Okay, but and there are people, as we have suggested, with mental health issues and the like. So and when Carlos was here, he was suggesting a housing kind of thing, and I was not sure I wanted to do that. But now as I think about having seen that article in the Chieftain, about how maybe we can make tents, have a designated area for these tents, and provide porta potties at our expense, so we don't have them using the river. And who would want, I mean, I would say, okay, we have that big area where the drive-in used to be next to the power plant, which I think the ambulance district owns.
Yeah,
now.
they own that.
But if I lived in a trailer park, I'd be screaming mad, just because, I don't know. So my point is, where would we build a centralized area to help these folks do what they're trying to do, and somebody to work with them? Pueblo tried. If you have resources available to you at your home, wherever that was, family or friends, we'll get you a bus ticket there. And it sounds like we're running them out of Dodge, but no, we're sending them where there are perhaps resources to assist them with their recovery, which we cannot offer at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's helpful, we'll do that, okay? Maybe we could partner with the soup kitchen once we have an identifiable area for tiny town, for lack of a better way to describe it.
Yeah.
Where homeless people have at least some place to get out of the weather to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
And be able to provide them the opportunity to use rudimentary restroom facilities, okay? Or partner with the soup kitchen to provide them some kind of meals. And what we do is we don't have them building little houses and not houses, building little structures and just building a place to live for that night. And we have at a central location, which I don't want to build a leper colony, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But we have to do more than we're doing than complaining and bitching about we have these people around town.
Yeah.
The big problem there is you gotta be careful with doing a thing like that, because I know other places have tried it, and even though you have to give them the option to go there, because if you say
No, you
this is
can't
where
force
you
them
can't
there,
tell
no,
them.
but if you avail them to certain amenities that would be helpful to them, that could be a good thing. In a short while, I will no longer be a resident, okay, that's common knowledge.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want what I could do to try and resolve the myriad of problems that we face. I've been here 4 generations, I need to just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
I absolutely understand.
I was listening very deliberately to everything that you were saying. In my mind, saying, how could we fix that? What could we do?
Let's get back to economic development.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, Frank?
No, go ahead.
Wally, I was privileged to be in the interviews when you were applying for this job, and something that you said there really stayed with me, and which was we were asking you, what do you think we need for economic development? You said more feet on the ground. And I was like, yes, that is true. Is the outdoor recreation, do you think that's our best shot, or is there any other thing that do you think we need to focus upon to get more feet into Trinidad?
Like I said, yeah, I do think outdoor recreation is gonna be the biggest one, as long as we make those investments in that infrastructure so that we can actually meet to that title. I'm just coming from communities, I've lived in Durango. Every direction you walk in Durango, within 15 minutes you're at a hiking trail. And so it's super difficult for us to compete with that when we haven't built that yet. Mind you, we could have that in the not so far future. We got the wormhole this way. If we develop the trail to the lake, we've got plenty of hiking that way. If we go this way to Fisher's Peak, we have plenty up there. And then if we connect to Cougar Canyon and don't let that golf cart trail go totally back to nature, that can be a hiking and walking trail over there. So we have the potential to build this infrastructure, we just have to do it. We have a trail comprehensive plan that was made in 2009, so that was over a decade ago, and we have not done a lot of that plan yet, and so I would love to see that happen.
Do you think we need an outdoor recreation director?
Oh yes, I would like that to be the next hire of the city, guys, personally. Because I just think that we need to be developing that trail infrastructure if we are going to be marketing ourselves as an outdoor recreation community.
It's funny you say that, because the chairman of the Parks and Rec Board would love that, and I think that's maybe something we've got to think about. And going further into that discussion, I think maybe when we look in the marijuana monies budget this year, we should really start prioritizing things that, we need for that industry for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I'm hearing, and Anthony, you mentioned that, and I guess from what I'm looking at is creating an asset map for the city of Trinidad.
Yeah.
What are our assets?
Mm-hmm.
What are the gaps? And then, like you said, you have the columns of what we have and what we don't have. What do we need to do to fill those gaps? Do we need a shoe store? Do we need, what other type of other things do we need?
We need a labor force.
And the labor force. So what are the gaps that we really look at now? Here's the other part of this whole thing, though, is that once this is developed, and this thing is, we need to also develop or have the resources available to help these people that move into Trinidad, or even the existing ones, for those people that may need help. Let's say they're beginning to struggle a little bit, or someone that's an entrepreneur that comes in. How do they start their business? So we need those people from CCI or OEDIT or some of these other resources that could, the SBDC organization that we look at here. Those type of organizations. So it's not all money.
Yeah.
It's all to the resources that can help them, get them, to help them with their financials, to breathe some life into them. If they're feeling down, okay, how do I market? Those type of things sometimes are actually more important than the actual money. So it needs to be kind of an inclusive, with this asset map that we would have, to look at what we have, what we don't have, and all the resources to help all these individuals and businesses to grow their businesses.
Mm-hmm. I would like to touch on that, and also I didn't really get the chance to answer any of your questions, so I wanted to do that real quick. For one thing, we are doing an asset map right now.
Okay.
We're working with a company called RPI.
Good idea.
We've actually been doing this through Main Street, where we have given them every piece of information that we have: who owns every building, what business is in those buildings. Audra helped a lot with getting that whole list together, and and so that's in the works right now. So basically what's happening with that is we sent them all the information. We partnered with the county to give them all of the maps of the entire community, of everything, and now they've created a survey that Penny Sadie is going to be taking to all of these businesses to ask them what they would like to see, what problems they face, like a whole list of different issues. So we are doing a survey of the whole community and our business businesses to try and figure that out. I do want to let you know there's 2 ice cream shops now and a frozen yogurt place over
Okay, well, no, good to know.
yeah. And then I do want to touch, you asked what I think is the biggest problem. I do think that our safety concerns with our community is one of them. Our homeless population, though I also wanted to say, if you want the economic development department to fix the homeless problem, I need a much bigger budget.
And the whole thing, they're intertwined.
Yeah.
All of these things do
No,
not
they
live
are.
in a vacuum. Continue.
I absolutely agree. But the last page on the left-hand side of or the last couple pages on the left-hand side of your booklet are just our census data from the past several years, and that is our biggest issue with being able to grow and continue to support the diversity of businesses that you had mentioned earlier. Is according to most statistics, we are a diminishing economy. We have less people living here than 10 years ago, and according to a lot of those trends, that was how it was moving. I don't think that that is the way things are moving. I think that we've done a lot of changes over the past few years, including the marijuana stuff that has brought a lot of people into this region, and I think with the state park, that's going to continue to happen. But these statisticians, they don't know any of that information. Like, they don't know what kind of development projects that are happening here. They just strictly look at trends and numbers of people moving from different places and such. And so the main thing I actually want to emphasize in this entire meeting is we need to be encouraging as many people to participate in the census as possible. Not only will we get more funding if we have more people report here, but it's nearly impossible to go to a business and be like, hey, we want you to invest in our community. We think you're going to thrive here, but we have 2,000 less people than we did 10 years ago. So it's really just, those are the numbers that they're going to look at right away if they're looking to develop in our community. Is there potential for growth? And so we just have to work on turning those numbers around and letting, and I've heard rumors that the last census, 25% of our town didn't do it, or something like that. And so we really need to work on educating the people that this is what we need to enable to be able to grow our economy.
Yeah, when we were in Denver, we saw that at that one meeting, the number, the percentage of people that they, was it 46% of the people did not report, that did not report this last census, which was, and I mean, and we weren't, it wasn't normal. Everybody else in the state was in the same situation.
Yeah.
It was huge, the numbers that did not report. So the state in itself lost a lot of money the last census.
Yeah. So you all should do your census and encourage all of your friends to do that.
I had a couple questions, Wally.
Yeah.
This first question is purely from ignorance of what your group does specifically.
Yeah.
But how much of a concern is existing business and industries versus maintaining those versus bringing in new? I mean, is it an even split, or you're focused solely on?
I'm honestly right now more focused on maintaining current businesses because, like I said, with this census information and these statistics, it's really hard to get businesses to come here and invest.
So, for full disclosure, I wanted to say, I obviously work in the energy sector, so I don't want to present a conflict, but the energy sector is listed in here as a historical portion of this region. But I mean, truth be told, we're still highly involved in the energy sector, potentially even more so with the mine coming.
Yeah.
Is there and I would say from my seat here, I would say some time ago, this council did a great service for the local energy industry by supporting them with that letter. So, but that being said, is there any plans to look towards any symbiotic relationships that can be built with, say, local energy companies, maybe the mine coming in, existing gas companies, in any ways that can support, a fair exchange of economy?
And I would like to see that. I have been trying not to bank too much on the mine yet until it's like 100% certain. And touching on that, honestly, there's a lot of work we have to do even if the mine opens up with, and if they're gonna be, supposedly this summer, they'll be employing 50 people up there with a goal of eventually ratcheting that up to 300 people. We've got 85 houses on the market here.
You know, Wally, we have someone here that's in the housing industry. You wanna come forward?
Oh, goodness.
Could you come talk to us about what you're seeing in the housing industry? I think council would like to know this.
I would love to do it
Please.
when I'm prepared with stats.
That's okay. Please come forward if you would, and kind of talk to us a little bit about what you are seeing within the housing industry. Because this all ties it together.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, I don't like being put on the spot.
Welcome.
Hi.
Anyway, give us your name and what you do.
Danielle Brolo, I'm a real estate broker with Southern Colorado Realty. I've been selling real estate here for 23 years.
Okay. What are you seeing?
I'm seeing, as far as,
Housing people that are wanting to move to Trinidad, are you seeing that type of movement?
Yes.
You see movement coming, going, what do you see?
right now, we're seeing a lot of inquiries. A lot of people calling, talk to us about the community, you know, before they make that trip out. The park has been a big factor in that, huge factor in that. We still have people moving here for their second homes. We still have people looking for raw land, which is, that's a big thing. That's changed a lot. We didn't have, and I don't have the stats on this, but we didn't have a lot of raw land sales for a long time because no one was interested in building. You could buy a home for less money than you could build one. That's changing. There's been lots of permits pulled within the city and in the county. So we're moving more raw land. And our homes are selling. We don't have long days on the market, and I don't have that number with me right now because I wasn't prepared for the
How about prospects for businesses downtown?
That's a hard one. I would say not yet.
Okay.
Now we have calls, we have inquiries, we have people talking, asking questions, but I don't have anybody jumping through.
When they call and they are asking about downtown assets, do they tell you what they are doing themselves, what they're?
A lot of them don't really want to talk about themselves quite yet. But if you want me to come back with good stats, I'm happy to do that.
Might have to do that. You were sitting in the audience, and I know you've been pretty involved in the housing industry, but I just wanted to get your perspective on it.
Danielle, I'd like to know if you have any feeling about what we could do about the downtown area in particular that would draw such businesses.
Can I think about that and
Sure.
give you an answer that's put together well?
Sure.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you get your answer and pass it over to Wally, and then you can get it to us.
Okay.
That'd be good. But anyway, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I have a couple
Sure.
questions here. Wally, you'd mentioned that the rental assistance was 25,000. Is that the calendar year 2019?
Yep, and 2018 and I believe 2017.
So that was each year.
Yep.
Okay. Then, what other means is there that assist businesses that the city is involved in?
Just those other incentives that I listed, the facade redevelopment, I gotta find it again, but there's a few. That's the only one that offers direct funding, like towards their operations, where most of them are more focused on improving the buildings that they're in. But that is the main one, and so yeah, I would be interested in finding more. But honestly, most communities that I've worked with that are equal in size, they don't even really have that many incentives for them. They were actually surprised when I told them we had a business rental assistance program. So if you have any ideas that you would like to try and develop, I'd be happy to look through them with you. Like I said, one that I would like to see is something that gets more remote workers here. I think that it's going to be hard for us to recruit large retailers, especially with the state of just retail right now. With internet shopping, and that's the biggest problem with our downtown, being able to fill those buildings. It's really hard to compete retail right now. And there has even been a very big emphasis in the economic development world for less attention to retail and more attention to experience economy. Creating businesses that are activities that are something for people to do, because they've done surveys and 72% of millennials would rather spend their money on an experience than they would on a thing. And so that's a continuing trend to keep looking at. So anything that we can do to try and create more activities in town, more things for do. And that's a complaint I hear from people all the time is, and I don't quite agree with this, but there's nothing to do in Trinidad. And so that's what I would like to encourage entrepreneurs to be looking at in this area, is what can they do to create more activities for the tourists that are here.
Quick question, if you don't mind. The business rental assistance is, I mean, you mentioned some businesses are out of business to use that and some are still in business. Do you have any method that can actually quantify the benefit that Trinidad has seen? You know, we've spent this many $1,000s, but what benefit have we gained, or is that not tangible?
I think the main benefit would be to have our shops filled, that we don't have empty storefronts all up and down Main Street. I think that'd be the biggest benefit. To the businesses that are receiving that assistance, the benefit is that we've helped them keep their doors
So it's
open.
hard to quantify dollars, but appearances.
Yes, I would say it's definitely hard to. I'd say so far in dollars, it has not been a good program. That the amount of money that we have probably gotten out of it is not financially, viable for a return. That being said, if the priority is to try and make our downtown not look empty, that's the benefit that we've gotten.
Here's a thought to that, if I may interject real quick. One of the things I think with that business rental assistance program, and someone, if we're going to give out money, I think if we were to have some of these other resources available to them to help them with their business, like not money, not monetarily, but some of the other stuff that they would have to get involved with before we loaned them the money, before they gave them the money. This way, it would give them at least a step up before they actually dig in, because a lot of times they'll come in and they open their storefront or whatever, and then like in a year or two they're out of businesses because this is the first time they've had a business, or they've not operated in this type of environment, but they at least would be able to have those resources available to them so that they know what they're confronted with here in Trinidad.
Well, you know what? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just have one. As far as the steps moving forward to try and make a unified thrust, if you will, to develop an outdoor-centric town. I mean, what are the essential steps we need to take for you to see that happening?
Like I said, I think number one is trails, is access to the outdoors from town. The biggest thing was access to public land. I remember when I first moved here, I bought a house and a buddy of mine bought a property, and both of us were like, oh man, there's nowhere to go near here except the lake. And all that is changing so quickly with the Fisher's Peak opening up. We weren't really aware of Sugar Eat at the time, but now just the connectability to Sugar Eat, the fact that they have a new outdoor recreation manager in New Mexico who's going to be probably expanding Sugar Eat as well. The amount of public space that we have now compared to a year ago is already substantially bigger. So I'd say that would be the first one. Second one would be trail systems to connect us to those areas. And then third would be infrastructure, camping sites, activities, like I said, and the experience economy. If we were to put in a zip line somewhere that kids can go do. This is an outdoor thing, and this is my own just passion thing, but I want to see a cover on the swimming pool that is allowing people to make healthy lifestyle choices and giving more activities for kids to do in our community, and stuff like that. We need to be creating a more healthy lifestyle, and that's what will encourage the development of outdoor recreation here. But then also the one that To be honest, yeah, I wrote way too many notes, so you all have some stuff to go through after this, I think, because there's a lot of stuff that we didn't even touch on in here. And most importantly, with the outdoor recreation, I know that the mayor has shared some of this information with you, but I have the CU MIMS program. They did that analysis of the potential for outdoor recreation here, and in that, we have the potential to add $11 to $19 million to our local economy every year once we get the park running up to like full capacity. And so that's going to be a huge bump in our tax revenue and our tourism entities that are coming here. They say that each of those people is will spend about $76 a day here. So yeah, so that's going to be a huge push. But like I keep saying, it's all about connectability, us connecting to them both through trails, but then also I brought this up to Mike as they develop the park. I think right now I know that they're planning on having the main interest at exit 8. I think it would be very much to our town's benefit if we had an outlet from the park at exit 8, or no, exit 11, sorry. The example that I think of is Garden of the Gods in Carter Springs. Their main entrance, their visitor center is right there by Garden of the Gods Road. You kind of have to go that back way to get in there. But then they have an outlet that dumps people right into Manitou Springs. And so that is a big part of the reason that Manitou has become such a big tourist attraction to people, is the number one destination for people to see when they go there is Garden of the Gods, and they have a road that dumps them right into their downtown.
The master plan that is gonna come out will determine all of that.
Yeah.
Ingress, egress.
I've just been trying to say they should try and do that. So I've been bringing it up in those rapid fire meetings, and I've been trying to tell Mike to keep bugging them whenever he gets a chance, because that'd be a huge economic driver. If we had people getting off at exit 11 with signs, really appealing signs that say, look at historic Trinidad, take the Santa Fe Trail Road straight down into downtown, I think that would bring a lot of people in, rather than forcing everybody to leave through exit 8 and possibly just get on the interstate and pass us by without even coming into our central downtown. Yeah.
I had more of a comment on the rental assistance program, because I kind of know some of the businesses that have gotten that assistance, and I can't hardly believe that any economic professional or anybody that does business planning would advise these people that they were gonna make a living off of those businesses. So I'm thinking, and I won't mention names, but some of them, when they first opened, I said, there's no chance that business is gonna stay. Just the demographics of Trinidad.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. So I'm thinking maybe we need to, if we're gonna keep that program, maybe redo and reconstruct the vetting process that we're using.
Yeah.
Maybe SBDC could make these people do a business plan and make them do a realistic business plan.
Yeah.
And this is probably very a no-brainer to most people in this room, but I think Trinidad is in a very unique situation. We are not unique as a city. Our residents are not unique. But what I see is we've got this huge interstate coming through here, and the businesses that are directly next to that interstate are all success stories. They make pretty good sized profit. The trick is trying to get people, like you said, what the millennials want to do, get those people to start businesses in downtown Trinidad that are unique. You can't find at any shopping center, around. And I think that's where we need to maybe start focusing our business pursuits for people downtown. We're in another quandary. We have one business developer who's purchased a lot of downtown and hasn't developed or redone anything with those buildings. So even though it looks like, we need to get something going with those businesses.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're doing something, but and then we have a lot of absentee owners. We have buildings downtown that have been in one or two families for generations. And it's hard to develop businesses in those buildings. I mean, the task that you have and the city has is not easy, it's not an easy.
Yeah, and it's gonna take a lot of investment dollars, really, to do it.
Yeah.
And it's easier to build a new building than it is to restore a lot of these old buildings, and so.
It is.
Yeah, so it's just really finding people that are interested. I'm touching on your thing. I do think we're a really unique town, and this is kind of a random thing, but I used to be. I was an English major in college, and one of the things I really learned about was character development, and that to create an interesting character, and I think this can apply to a town as well, you have to hit those stereotypical things. Like you have to, like if we're going to be an outdoor rec town, we have to have trails, we have to have companies that support that infrastructure. If we're going to be an arts community, we have to have public arts that people can see. Those things that like you just kind of automatically put with that. But what makes a character interesting is the things that set them outside of that stereotype. So it's a stereotype that then they have weird quirks about them or things that no other place has. And I think we have interesting buildings. I think we have such an interesting history, both with
Commercial Street in of itself is unique.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like there's a lot of uniqueness about this town. Even just the blueprint of this town. There's nothing quite like it. So it's just figuring out how to put forward those things those resources that we do need to continue to develop, and then how to emphasize what makes us quirky and different than other places.
Well, like I say, I know there's a lot of work to do yet, and thank you for the information you've given us. We'll look it over, and we'll move forward, and I think you know where we're trying to go, and we understand where you're going with this, so thank you for your information.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks,
And Mayor, if I might add, I mean, you can see that Wally's been here not even 6 months. And so he's hit the ground running, and we appreciate that. The thing he didn't come up here with is a printing press for to pay for all these things, and he's doing a good job as far as getting things done, you know, and everything you said there, you know, we went through the budget process not too long ago. Everything's tight. Yeah, we need to hire the trails coordinator. We need more police. We need more people in the river cutting everything, you know, and clearing everything. It's a juggling act, and appreciate Wally for what he's doing.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Good job.
I really appreciate it.
Moving on, just one real quick. Have we determined the actual date for our retreat? Is that the 20th?
March 20th, we're trying a little bit with location, but March 20th.
March 20th is the designated time.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other possible agenda items that council wants to bring forward in a work session? Any thoughts? Anything in particular?
I'd like to talk about the downtown beautification and getting a more active move to get the facades work on. I mean, that's just been sitting there for a very long time, and I'm not sure what we need to do to prompt it, but.
Okay.
There's just nobody's coming forward. We've tried all kinds of incentives, but yeah, a discussion on that. Part of this whole discussion is we need people to step forward too, you know, so yeah.
The date of the retreat, I will be in South Carolina on the 20th, and so unless I can participate by phone or something.
Okay. Any other items that council could think of that you'd like to have on a future work session?
I think we need to look at that marijuana budget. Maybe go back. Mike, does each department have a list of like equipment that's needing to be replaced? Do we know what our?
Sure, we've been having fleet meetings, and we kind of we've really been able to catch up, and we have that list.
I think that's one of the items we're gonna talk about in the retreat too.
Yeah.
Is it?
That is.
Because there's some things that are just, I mean, I think we're duplicating a lot.
And And while we're at it, go ahead, Jeff, something?
No, no.
Okay, while we're at it, you know, one of the things we wanted to try is that, to do it now, if you have any reports, a lot of miscellaneous reports that you guys wanna give, that doesn't have to be memorialized, now's the time to do it.
Not for me, actually.
Here?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, I'm tied up. Couldn't do it.
Okay.
I did have an idea, for a work session, potentially, I understand the, level of, work it may, require though, so it's up for discussion, whether it's an actual work session or not, but I think unless the captain of the ship gives the directive, the ship isn't gonna go there. And there's lots and lots of, evidence, anecdotal and hard evidence, both that would suggest, a huge component of our economy could be derived from an outdoor-centric, community. What I'm saying is, to get to that point, it would take the commitment of this, council. I'd like to maybe see if we could consider, you know, really strongly committing to that idea. I mean, it'd benefit the whole town, the restaurants, businesses, hotels, I mean, down to gas stations, Hallmark, any business out there. More people here would help, and if we strongly commit together and put the resources behind it, we have just a wealth of that. Reading through this, I mean, just the number of people that we have that have access here, it's mind-boggling. That's something I'd like to see worked on.
Just a couple of things that, I wanted to mention, a couple of weeks ago. Didn't mention that. But, you know, we did have dinner with Rick Garcia from DOLA with the county, and that was an interesting conversation. Just, you know, Tara Marshall was there, and we talked about, you know, fundings and stuff like this. So, one of the things that came out of it is, together funding, because we're gonna have to go after some DOLA funding for the, master plan process at Fisher's Peak. And one of the things that they recommend is actually that the city and the county go in together on that request. So, matter of fact, I think later this week, sometime we're supposed to have a conference call with them.
I believe it's Friday at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, and, so we're gonna be talking about the funding there. Also went to, and I think a couple other people were there, you were there at the Mount Carmel, open house for the dental center, which is really, really nice. And Mike was there, it was an nice addition to the community. It was really
Aaron
nice.
was there too.
Yeah, I heard you were there too, so. But,
Yeah.
and just, and I know that, Tony Boone was here last time, but I just wanted to mention, might as well mention it, that, you know, THK is the company that's doing the master plan for, the Fisher's Peak deal. That was the company that was chosen, for him, so. In a couple of weeks, I will be going to our Southwest Chief meeting, and we're going to have a, 3-state meeting in Pueblo. There's gonna be Kansas, New Mexico, and Colorado. So there'll be groups from, one meeting in Pueblo. That's gonna be a pretty interesting meeting that's coming up as to, what's happening with the Southwest Chief. That's all I got. No one has anything else?
Mayor, I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
As you all know, the entertainment district will be having several events this coming summer. They have a car show planned, potentially several Blues Fest events. Liquor law now allows use of sidewalk area immediately adjacent to properties with permissions. For those licensees to actually move, for instance, a portable bar out onto. The fee, they have to apply for a modification premise to do that. Where a modification used to cost $150 to change it and $150 to change it back, they have created this law that allows sidewalk service areas, and it's a $75 annual fee for that. So, if council is agreeable, I would like to let the participants of the, entertainment district, the licensees that are participating in the events, know that they have the potential of applying for a modification of premise on an annual basis, and then it would be a matter of a permission letter from city manager. City council would actually act on those special event permits. There's obviously insurance requirements, but, you know, the entertainment district, when they hold events, the people are actually drinking on the street anyhow. It's really not a big stretch to move a bar out onto the street. It actually probably make for better public safety in a lot of areas because of the crowding that happens going in and out of the bars, or not even the bars, the restaurants.
Will we need a resolution prior to allowing these people to come forward, or just?
No,
Okay.
no, if council's comfortable with that, I will just ask for a letter from the city manager, for anyone who applies for that modification for those events. Council will be
Questions?
considering the events as a whole.
So Audra, when we do a regular liquor license, every department has to go in and inspect. Will that modification require an inspection, like a sign off for the fire department, police department?
For the special events permit?
No, I mean for the modification
For the
license.
modification, I do circulate, sign off form for them.
Okay.
And, anything?
No, sir.
No.
The outside portion would be just for the special event, then, yeah?
Yes.
So,
Only
Yeah.
for the special event, has to be, immediately adjacent to the licensed premise, and thereby comprising a definite contiguous area.
So Audra, that, the first initial $75 fee to the state, does that come before council or just the entertainment district?
That will come
That would
in front of
come.
council.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, go home.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.